The judges decided the winning project to be unCHAINed. unCHAINed is a digital identity and resource allocation system. Please, Trevor, Campbell, and Todd, Schultz, come up and tell us about your solution. Congratulations.
Hi, everyone. So we are Team unCHAINed, and we were working in the Refugees Challenge. So if you look here on the screen, here's a very big problem, the refugee crisis. As of today, there are 65 million people who have been forcibly displaced from their homes. It's an enormous problem, and we have many government organizations, governments, and nonprofits working on this problem. But unfortunately, there's still so much left to be done. So here's the problem. There's more than 65 million people who have been forcibly displaced, and the reason for this is either due to conflict, climate change, or some kind of other challenges that present hardships for people. And most of these refugees lack money, they lack identification, and they don't have a means to prove their identity, and they can't get access to services, to help, and to humanitarian aid. And unfortunately, a lot of these resources have been insufficient and have been poorly distributed. So efforts for humanitarian aid organizations have been falling short because their goal is to get people assistance and to get them in camps and provide assistance and help them uplift themselves into better situations. But they can't do that. So here's another problem outside of just refugees. The World Bank estimates that more than 1 billion people, today we learned it's 1.7 billion people, are unbanked, and they don't have the proper identification documents to prove their identity. They can't get bank accounts, they can't get loans, they can't get access to services. And without proper documentation, this effectively locks these people out of the global economy. And this is a huge problem. 1.7 billion people. That's enormous. And so by creating a global distributed identity system, we can enter these people into the global economy and help them get access to aid, services, and resources that can uplift them out of their situations. So how do we fix this?
So we're going to be talking about the solution we came up with, which we call the unCHAINed DIRAS. DIRAS stands for Digital Identity and Resource Allocation System. So the key idea underpinning this whole model is to combine digital identities and ERC20 token wallet to be able to link in a refugee or displaced person's personal identification to a monetary fund that is independent of any country, nation, or border. So the way we're doing that is implementing these brand new Ethereum standards proposed by Fabian Vogelsteller, co-author of the ERC20 token contract, which help define how we can identify individual actors in a system and how those individual actors can make claims on each other's identities. So how would we go about implementing this technology, this big change? So the first thing we would have to do is we would have to identify certain partners, international aid organizations that would be willing to pilot or try this technology. These organizations would be allotted a single 725 contract deployed onto the Ethereum network that would serve as their identity. From this contract, they can place claims on refugees they wish to accept into their network, and upon making this initial claim, refugees' identity is federated and tokens are distributed to them. And as time goes along, this workflow is continuously validated through peer-to-peer transactions and periodic deposits of funds into refugee token wallets. Our MVP is made up of combining, like I said earlier, the 725 and 735 implementations, our already deployed ERC20 token, test transactions, and identity mapper to match these 725 organizations to the refugees within their network, a mobile interface, and biometric authentication.
So now we come to the important part. Why does this all matter? So this is a two-part benefit. It benefits both the organizations that serve refugees and refugees themselves. So some of the benefits that our system has for aid organizations is that it uncovers data that was previously unavailable. So we can get a lot of transactional data and information as to what are refugees' needs, what are they spending their resources on, what do they need more of, and where are all these resources going? Where are people going? And so using the system, aid organizations can make their processes more efficient, more cost-effective, and see better impact benefit from their investments and from their missions. And so along with this, We also get a lot of increased transparency from the humanitarian aid system, so we can see exactly where resources are going, how they're being spent, and that provides a lot of benefits for the donors and patrons of these organizations. So one of the important parts too is that transactions and identities are validated continuously. So in doing this, we can analyze transactions, look at spending behaviors, patterns, and figure out where resources are needed, what resources might be more effectively spent elsewhere. And we can also analyze transactions and find bad actors in the refugee system. So right now, it's very difficult to find people that are abusing the system, and this provides insight. We can use data analytics and find abnormal spending patterns, abnormal behaviors, and we may be able to penalize these people and refuse them aid if they are abusing the system. And so along with the data analytics, we're able to provide insights to aid organizations so that they can better allocate their resources, which in turn increases efficiency and all that. So then we come into benefits for refugees. So most of these people don't have identities, and this is a huge problem because it locks them out of the global economy. So in order to help them segue into the global economy and get bank accounts, apply for citizenship, asylum, and start working their way towards rebuilding their life, by continuously using the system and transacting, they can build a robust profile of their identity. So each time they make a transaction, each party can affirm the identity of the other. And in doing so, we can build a robust transactional history and identity for this person. And since stateless people don't have a government, they don't have an organization to depend on to build this identity for them, we can do that. We can step in, fill that void, and help get these people entered into the global economy and build identities for them to enter, make bank accounts, things like that. Not done yet. There's more. So one of the also really important aspects of this is that it enables peer-to-peer transactions between refugees and service providers that they transact with. So right now, people that are in camps or are in cities, they can't transact with one another. And so a lot of the times they spend their time doing not much of anything. And so we want them to be productive. We want them to start businesses. We want them to transact with one another. And this can enable that by giving a secure way to access their funds and lay claim to assets, money, things like that. And so in order to, get this system off the ground, we definitely have plans to collaborate with the UNHCR, the World Food Program. They operate large cash assistance programs right now. We just learned today that the World Food Program spends $1.4 billion, probably going to be closer to $2 billion per year. And so in doing this, we can reduce the transactional cost and eliminate the need for banks and their business networks, which benefits them greatly too. It saves them a lot of money.
All right, so before we get done here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical architecture that's making this all possible. This application is a full stack, fully distributed application, not hosted on any one server, not controlled by any one party. And we accomplish that through deploying Ethereum smart contracts to capture the logic of our application and using Swarm distributed API storage to store the data and all the data points that we need to keep on the Ethereum chain natively. Eventually, we will be working towards creating a React mobile front end to allow for a mobile application that can be used anywhere in the world. I want to talk to you a bit about me and Trevor, who are here, and then the 4 team members who couldn't make it here. Sam is on vacation somewhere in Europe. Urja and Guri, they both live in India and could not quite make it to Washington, D.C. on 2 days' notice, and Madhu just started a new job, and he couldn't come either. But everyone you see on the screen had a lot of roles to play in this and really, really drove the development of what I think is a really amazing technology. Thank you guys for listening, and I really appreciate your time.